Commander Vextar stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the blue planet grow larger on the main screen. Earth looked peaceful from space. White clouds drifted over green and brown continents. Blue oceans covered most of the world. It seemed like such a quiet place. "Sir, we are receiving more transmissions from the planet," his communications officer reported. "The humans are still fighting each other in 3 different locations." Vextar nodded. This was exactly what their scouts had told them to expect. The humans were a violent species that could not stop fighting among themselves. Wars raged constantly on the world. They had weapons that used chemical explosives and metal projectiles. Very basic technology compared to the energy weapons and plasma shields of the Zephyrian Empire. "How many ships do they have in space?" Vextar asked. 12 small vessels near their moon. 6 more around the planet. "All of them are tiny compared to our ships," the tactical officer answered. "Their largest ship is smaller than our smallest scout craft." Vextar smiled. The humans had been observed for 8 months. Every report showed the same thing. They were divided into nearly 200 separate nations that argued and fought constantly. They had no unified government, no coordinated military, no advanced technology. The conquest of Earth would take less than a week. The Zephyrian Empire had conquered 17 star systems in the past 50 years. Every victory had been swift and clean. Most species surrendered after seeing the size of the Imperial fleet. Those that fought were quickly overwhelmed by superior technology and tactics. Earth would be no different. "Open a channel to all human settlements," Vextar ordered. The main screen changed to show his image being broadcast across the planet. He was tall and elegant, with crystalline features that gleamed in the bridge lights. His voice was calm and controlled as he spoke. "Humans of Earth, I am Commander Vextar of the Zephyrian Empire. Your world is now under our control. You have 72 hours to surrender all military forces and submit to Imperial rule. Any resistance will be met with overwhelming force." The transmission ended. Vextar expected panic to spread across the planet. Human governments would argue about what to do. Their military leaders would realize they could not win. Chaos would follow, and then surrender. On Earth, President Lisa Rodriguez sat in the White House Situation Room watching the alien broadcast. Around the table sat military leaders, scientists, and advisors. Everyone looked worried, but not panicked. "How many ships?" Rodriguez asked. 200 large vessels, maybe 50 smaller ones," Admiral Jake Morrison replied. He commanded the small fleet near Mars. "Each big ship is about 5 miles long. We've never seen technology like this." Dr. Amy Foster leaned forward. She ran the Defense Research Agency. "We intercepted some of their communications. They're using energy-based weapons and have some kind of protective shields. Our missiles and bullets might not work against them." General Pete Sullivan spoke from his position at NORAB. "Ma'am, I've been in contact with military leaders around the world. Everyone wants to coordinate our response. Russia, China, all of NATO, even countries that haven't talked to each other in years. They all want to work together on this." Rodriguez nodded. "That's good. We need to present a united front." "What about our space forces?" Admiral Morrison's expression was grim. "We have 18 ships total. They're not built for war. Most are research vessels or cargo haulers. We can arm them with missiles, but against this kind of fleet, ... He shrugged. "We have to try," Rodriguez said firmly. "Send word to every nation. We're not surrendering. Earth will fight." In space, Admiral Morrison prepared his small fleet for battle. The USS Liberty was his flagship, a research vessel converted for military use. Captain Danny Walsh commanded the Marines aboard the ship. His soldiers had trained for combat on other worlds, but no one had expected it to happen so soon. "Sir, the alien fleet is moving toward Mars," reported Lieutenant Commander Nancy Price from her position at the sensor station. "They're not in any hurry." Morrison studied the tactical display. The alien ships moved in perfect formation. They looked beautiful and deadly at the same time. "They think this will be easy," he said quietly. On the surface of Mars, a small human research station received an evacuation order. Dr. Chris Taylor and his team of 20 scientists and engineers had been studying the planet for 2 years. Now they watched alien ships approach through the thin atmosphere. "How long until the evacuation ship arrives?" asked Joey Martinez, the station's pilot. Taylor checked his computer. 6 hours. The aliens will be here in 2. Then we make them work for it," Martinez said. He started arming the station's small defensive systems. They were designed to destroy asteroids and space debris, not alien warships. But they were better than nothing. The first battle began at Mars. Admiral Lawson's fleet met the advancing aliens in the space between the planet and its moons. The human ships spread out, trying to use their smaller size and speed as advantages. The aliens opened fire first. Beams of pure energy lanced through space, striking human ships with devastating effect. The USS Discovery disappeared in a ball of flame. The research vessel, Newton, broke apart when an energy beam cut through its hull. "Return fire." Morrison ordered human missiles streaked toward the alien ships. Some struck invisible barriers and exploded harmlessly. Others penetrated the shields and damaged alien hulls. The aliens seemed surprised that humans could hurt them at all. Captain Walsh watched the battle from the Liberty's bridge. "Sir, we're losing ships fast, but we're making them pay for it." Morrison nodded grimly. 3 human ships were gone, but they had damaged 2 alien vessels. Not a fair trade, but better than expected. The battle lasted 4 hours. When it ended, only 6 human ships remained, but 5 alien vessels had been destroyed or badly damaged. The rest of the alien fleet continued toward Earth, but they moved more carefully now. On Earth, news of the Mars battle spread quickly. Humans had fought aliens and survived. They had proven the enemy could be hurt. President Rodriguez addressed the world again. "Fellow citizens of Earth," she said, looking directly into the camera. "Today, our people fought bravely in space. We lost good men and women, but we showed these invaders that humans do not surrender easily. Every nation on Earth is now working together. We will defend our world." General Sullivan coordinated defensive preparations. Military bases went on. Highest alert. Cities prepared for siege. Weapons factories worked around the clock to produce ammunition. For the first time in centuries, every human on Earth was united against a common enemy. Commander Vextar studied the battle reports with growing concern. His fleet had won, but the humans had fought harder than expected. They had used tactics he had never seen before. Their ships were primitive, but their crews were skilled and brave. "Sir, we're receiving transmissions from Earth," his communications officer reported. "The humans are refusing to surrender." Vextar was not entirely surprised. Begin the assault on their homeworld. Target their military installations first. Show them the price of resistance. But as his fleet approached the blue planet, Vextar noticed something that troubled him. The chaotic radio chatter from Earth had become organized. Nations that had been enemies were now sharing information. Military frequencies carried coordinated orders. The divided, fighting humans, his scouts, had observed were acting like a unified species. Perhaps Earth would not be as easy to conquer as he had thought. The alien ships came down from the sky like falling stars. Each one was enormous, casting shadows over entire cities as they descended through Earth's atmosphere. Their hulls gleamed silver in the sunlight, and energy weapons glowed along their sides like angry eyes. Commander Vextar watched from his flagship as the first wave of assault ships approached their targets. Military bases around the world had been marked for destruction. The plan was simple and efficient. Destroy human military power, then demand surrender. It had worked on 17 other worlds. The first target was Peterson Air Force Base in Colorado. General Pete Sullivan watched from NORAD as energy beams struck the base from orbit. Buildings melted like ice in a fire. Aircraft on the runway were vaporized instantly. In seconds, one of Earth's most important military installations was gone. "Sir, we're getting reports from bases worldwide," reported Major Katie Johnson from her communications post. "They're hitting everyone at once. Britain, Russia, China, Australia. No one is being spared." Sullivan's jaw tightened. "Send word to all remaining forces. Scatter and hide. Make them hunt for every target." At Camp Pendleton in California, Captain Danny Walsh gathered his Marines as alien ships approached the base. He had been transferred to Earth after the Mars battle, promoted for his service in space. Now he faced an enemy assault on his home planet. "Listen up," Walsh shouted to his men. "These aliens think we're going to roll over and quit. They're about to learn different. Sergeant Kelly Brooks, take your squad to the armory. Grab everything that explodes. We're going to make this expensive for them." Brooks nodded and ran toward the weapons storage. She was small but tough, a demolitions expert who could make bombs from spare parts. If the aliens wanted the base, they would have to dig her out of the rubble. The alien ships opened fire on Camp Pendleton. Energy beams carved through buildings and equipment, but the Marines had scattered into prepared positions. They had been training for alien invasion since the first contact at Mars. Hidden bunkers protected small groups of soldiers. Underground tunnels allowed movement between buildings. When the first alien soldiers landed, they expected to find surrender or chaos. Instead, they found Marines who had been waiting for them. The aliens were tall and graceful, with crystalline skin that reflected light. They wore armor that shimmered like water and carried weapons that fired beams of focused energy. They moved in perfect formation, advancing with careful precision. Brooks watched them approach her position from a hidden bunker. When they were close enough, she triggered the explosives she had placed around the landing zone. The ground erupted in fire and smoke. Several aliens fell, their armor cracked and sparking. "Now!" Walsh shouted. Marines opened fire from concealed positions. Human bullets bounced off alien armor, but some found gaps and weak points. The aliens stumbled backward, surprised by the ferocity of the resistance. The battle for Camp Pendleton lasted 6 hours. When it ended, the aliens controlled the base, but at a heavy cost. They had lost 30 soldiers taking a position they expected to capture in minutes. The surviving Marines had retreated to prepared positions in the nearby hills. Dr. Amy Foster watched video of the battle from her laboratory in Nevada. She was studying pieces of alien technology recovered from the Mars fight. Every fragment taught her something new about their weapons and defenses. "The energy shields have a resonance frequency," she explained to Colonel Rick Stone, her military liaison. "If we can match that frequency, we might be able to disrupt them." Stone studied the alien weapon she had partially rebuilt. "How long to develop a countermeasure?" "Give me 2 weeks and every resource you can spare," Foster replied. "I think we can build something that will hurt them." Around the world, similar scenes played out. The aliens struck military targets with overwhelming force, but humans refused to surrender. In Russia, Colonel Boris Petrov led tank units in desperate charges against alien ground forces. In China, General Li Wei coordinated guerrilla attacks from mountain hideouts. In Britain, Air Marshal Helen Davis sent fighter jets on suicide runs against alien ships. Each victory cost the aliens more than they expected. Humans fought with a savage determination that confused their careful battle plans. When cornered, humans did not surrender. They fought until the end, taking as many enemies with them as possible. President Rodriguez moved her government to a secret bunker deep underground. From there, she coordinated the global resistance. Every few hours, she received reports from surviving military units around the world. "The aliens have taken most of our major bases," reported General Sullivan during a secure video conference. "But our forces are still fighting. They're discovering that holding territory is harder than taking it." "What about casualties?" Rodriguez asked. Sullivan's expression was grim. "Heavy on both sides, but we're learning their tactics. And Dr. Foster thinks she can give us better weapons soon." In space, Admiral Morrison led the surviving human fleet in hit-and-run attacks on alien supply ships. His flagship, the Liberty, had been badly damaged at Mars, but was still fighting. Lieutenant Commander Nancy Price had become his best tactical officer, planning raids that struck fast and disappeared before the aliens could respond. "Sir, we've identified a pattern in their supply runs," Price reported during a briefing. "They're bringing ammunition and fuel from their main fleet every 12 hours. If we hit them during transfer, we can damage both ships." Morrison nodded. "Set it up. We need every advantage we can get." The raid took place near Earth's moon. 3 human ships attacked an alien supply convoy. The battle was brief but vicious. The humans lost 1 ship, but destroyed 2 alien vessels and damaged a third. More importantly, they captured alien equipment and prisoners. The first alien prisoner was brought to Dr. Foster's laboratory. The creature was tall and elegant, with skin that looked like living crystal. It spoke through a translation device. Its voice musical but cold. "You cannot win," the alien said. "The Zephyrian Empire has conquered 17 worlds. Your resistance only delays the inevitable." Foster leaned forward, studying the creature with scientific curiosity. "Maybe, but we're learning fast. And every day we fight, we get better at killing your people." The alien's crystalline features shifted, showing what might have been surprise or fear. "You speak of killing as if it brings you joy." "It doesn't," Foster replied honestly. "But you came to our world. You attacked our people. Now you get to see what humans do to threats." Back on the surface, the war continued to spread. The aliens had taken control of major cities, but they struggled to maintain order. Humans melted away into the countryside, then returned at night to attack alien patrols. Every street corner could hide a sniper. Every building might contain explosives. In New York, the aliens found themselves controlling empty skyscrapers while humans fought from the subway tunnels below. In London, Big Ben had been destroyed, but British forces used the underground to move freely beneath the occupied city. In Tokyo, seemingly peaceful civilians revealed themselves as trained soldiers when alien patrols let their guard down. Captain Walsh regrouped his Marines in the California mountains. They had rescued Sergeant Brooks and 40 other survivors from various bases. Now they planned their next move. "Sir, we've been monitoring alien communications," reported Corporal Tony Kim, their communications specialist. "They're requesting reinforcements. Apparently, Earth is taking longer to conquer than expected." Walsh smiled grimly. "Good. Let them call for help. Every ship they send here is one that can't attack another world." He looked out over the valley where alien ships patrolled constantly. "We're going to make them regret coming here, Marines. They want to fight? We'll give them one they'll never forget." Around the world, human resistance was hardening into something the aliens had never encountered. On every previous world they had conquered, the native species had eventually accepted defeat and submitted to imperial rule. But humans seemed incapable of surrender. Every defeat only made them fight harder. Commander Vextar studied reports from ground commanders with growing concern. Casualties were mounting faster than expected. Human tactics were unpredictable and brutal. They used their own cities as weapons, turning every building into a potential fortress. Sir, Ground Commander Kexaval is requesting orbital bombardment of civilian targets, his aide reported. He believes terror tactics will break human morale. Vextar considered this carefully. The Zephyrian Empire preferred clean conquests that left infrastructure intact. But Earth was proving more difficult than any previous campaign. Approved, he decided. Select one major city as an example. Show the humans the price of continued resistance. It was a decision that would change everything. The aliens had no idea that attacking civilians would not break human morale. It would forge it into something far more dangerous. The city of Denver died at dawn. Energy beams from orbit struck the downtown area without warning, turning buildings into ash and glass into vapor. 1 million people lived in the city. Most of them never had a chance to run. President Rodriguez watched the satellite footage from her underground bunker. The city center was gone, replaced by a crater of melted stone and twisted metal. Fires burned in the suburbs where debris had fallen like rain. Casualty estimates? She asked quietly. General Sullivan's voice was hollow. 800,000. Dead. Maybe more. The hospitals are overwhelmed. Rescue teams can't get close to ground zero because of radiation. Around the conference table, military leaders and advisors sat in stunned silence. Everyone had known civilian casualties were possible, but seeing an entire city destroyed in minutes was different than planning for it. "They're broadcasting a message," reported Major Katie Johnson. "The alien commander says this is what happens to worlds that resist. He's giving us 24 hours to surrender." Rodriguez stood up slowly. Her face was pale, but her voice was steady. "Get me a global broadcast channel. Every nation, every military unit, every resistance cell. I want everyone to hear this." An hour later, President Rodriguez appeared on screens around the world. Behind her was the image of Denver burning. When she spoke, her voice carried across continents to every human still fighting. Fellow citizens of Earth, today the invaders murdered 800,000 innocent people. Men, women, children. They think this will make us surrender. They are wrong. This is not the end of our resistance. This is the beginning of their nightmare. She paused, letting the words sink in. From this moment forward, we show these creatures no mercy. They wanted a war. They have one. And we will fight it with every weapon we can build, every tactic we can imagine, and every ounce of hatred they have earned. The broadcast ended. Across the planet, something changed in the human resistance. The careful military planning gave way to something colder and more personal. The aliens had crossed a line they didn't even know existed. Captain Steve Rogers had been a Special Forces operative before the invasion. Now he led a deep reconnaissance team behind enemy lines. When news of Denver reached his unit, hidden in the Colorado mountains, his orders changed completely. "New mission," Rogers told his team. "We're going to infiltrate the main alien command base and find out everything we can about their operations." His team consisted of 5 specialists. Lucy Chon was his demolitions expert, a woman who could make explosives from household chemicals. Tony Kim handled communications and computer systems. The others were soldiers who had learned to hate their enemies with cold precision. "Sir, that base has 3,000 alien soldiers," Chon pointed out. "We're 6 people." Rogers smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "We're not going in to fight them all. We're going in to learn how they think. And then we're going to use that knowledge to kill them more efficiently." The mission took 2 weeks to plan. The alien base was built in what used to be Colorado Springs, near the crater where Denver had been. Massive ships landed and took off constantly, bringing supplies and reinforcements from the fleet in orbit. Rogers and his team approached the base through abandoned suburbs. The aliens had cleared out all human civilians, but they hadn't bothered to demolish the empty houses. It was a mistake that gave the infiltration team perfect cover. Movement patterns are regular, Kim whispered into his radio as he watched alien patrols from a hidden position. They change guard every 4 hours. Same routes every time? Chun had been studying the base's power systems. They're using some kind of fusion generator. If I can get close enough, I can plant charges that will take out their communications. Negative, Rogers replied. We're here to gather intelligence, not blow things up. Not yet, anyway. The team spent 3 days observing before they made their move. They entered the base through a maintenance tunnel that the aliens had overlooked. Their crystalline physiology made them excellent at many things, but they thought differently than humans. They missed obvious hiding places that any human would have secured. Inside the base, Rogers and Kim accessed alien computer systems while Chun and the others stood guard. The information they found was worse than anyone had imagined. Sir, you need to see this, Kim whispered, pointing at symbols on an alien display screen. These are records from their previous conquests. They don't just defeat other species. They exterminate them completely. Rogers studied the data with growing horror. 17 star systems. Billions of intelligent beings. All dead. The Zephyrian Empire didn't conquer worlds to rule them. It took resources and eliminated any species that might someday threaten their expansion. Get everything, Rogers ordered. Every file, every record. Earth needs to know what these creatures really are. Meanwhile, Dr. Amy Foster's research had produced results. Working around the clock with teams of scientists and engineers, she had reverse-engineered alien weapons technology. The first human energy weapons were crude and dangerous, but they worked. Colonel Rick Stone tested the new weapon at a secret facility in Nevada. When he pulled the trigger, a beam of focused energy carved through 6 inches of steel plating. The weapon was heavy and required a backpack power source, but it could punch through alien armor. How many can you make? Stone asked. Foster wiped sweat from her forehead. Give me the resources, and I can arm 1,000 soldiers within a month. But Rick, these weapons are unstable. They might explode if they overheat. Better than shooting bullets that bounce off their armor, Stone replied. Start production immediately. The first unit equipped with human energy weapons was Major Katie, Johnson's special assault team. They trained for 2 weeks, learning to use the dangerous new weapons without killing themselves. Then they received orders for their first mission. Intelligence reports a major alien supply depot in Nevada. General Sullivan briefed them via secure video link. It's lightly defended because they think their technology makes them invulnerable. You're going to prove them wrong. The attack came at midnight. Johnson's team approached the alien depot through the desert, using night vision and careful planning to avoid patrols. When they opened fire, the aliens were completely unprepared. Human energy beams cut through alien soldiers and equipment with devastating effect. Vehicles exploded. Weapons caches burned. The few aliens who survived the initial assault fled in panic, something their commanders had never seen before. Target destroyed, Johnson reported as her team withdrew. Minimal casualties on our side. The new weapons work. But the real breakthrough came when Rogers transmitted his intelligence data from Colorado. The information reached President Rodriguez, General Sullivan, and military leaders around the world simultaneously. They're planning genocide, Rodriguez said after reading the reports. Complete extermination of the human species. There can be no negotiation, no surrender, No coexistence. Sullivan nodded grimly. Ma'am, this changes everything. If we're going to die anyway, we might as well take as many of them with us as possible. More than that, Rodriguez replied. If they've done this to 17 other species, they'll do it to others in the future. Earth isn't just fighting for humanity anymore. We're fighting for every species in the galaxy that these creatures might encounter. The president made another global broadcast that night. This time, she shared Roger's intelligence with the entire world. The reaction was immediate and profound. In China, General Li Wei abandoned defensive tactics and began planning offensive operations against alien-held territory. In Russia, Colonel Petrov started designing weapons specifically meant to cause maximum alien casualties. In Britain, Air Marshal Davis coordinated with underground resistance movements to share intelligence and resources. The war was entering a new phase. Humans were no longer just defending their world. They were preparing to take the fight to their enemies. Admiral Morrison's space fleet had grown through captured alien vessels. His pilots learned to operate enemy ships by trial and error, often discovering that human intuition could find new ways to use alien technology. Sir, we've modified 3 of the captured ships, reported Lieutenant Commander Nancy Price. If we overload their power systems, we can turn them into guided missiles with 10 times the explosive force of our biggest bombs. Morrison considered. This, suicide missions? Yes, sir, but volunteers only. And each one could take out an entire alien battleship. The Admiral looked out at Earth through the bridge viewport. The planet showed scars now. Cities had gone dark. Smoke rose from a dozen different continents. But humans were still fighting. Do it, he decided. And make sure the aliens know that every ship they lose here is one they can't use against the next species they encounter. Commander Vextar studied casualty reports with growing alarm. Ground forces were requesting constant reinforcements. Supply convoys needed heavier escorts. Most disturbing of all, humans were beginning to use captured alien technology in ways that violated every military doctrine he knew. Sir, the humans have started targeting our civilian support ships, his tactical officer reported. They're treating this as total war. Vextar nodded slowly. The Zephyrian Empire had rules for warfare. Civilized species fought according to established protocols. But humans seemed to have no such restrictions. The destruction of Denver had been meant to break human morale. Instead, it shattered something else entirely. Every rule about warfare that humans had followed for centuries vanished overnight. The Geneva Convention became meaningless paper. Military honor gave way to cold vengeance. Dr. Amy Foster stood in her expanded laboratory complex, now hidden deep in the Nevada mountains. Around her, hundreds of scientists worked on projects that would have been unthinkable before the invasion. Chemical weapons designed to target alien biology. Biological agents that could destroy their technology. Nuclear devices small enough to be carried by a single soldier. The nerve agent is ready for testing, reported Dr. Helen Davis, a biochemist who had joined the project after watching her hometown burn. It's specifically designed for the respiratory system. One canister could clear an entire alien base. Foster nodded without looking up from her own work. She was designing something far worse than poison gas. What about the nanoscale disruptors? First batch is complete, replied Dr. Bobby Wright from the electronics section. They'll consume any alien technology they contact. Hull plating, weapons, life support systems, everything. Colonel Rick Stone observed from the side of the laboratory. He had seen war before, but this was different. These weren't soldiers developing weapons. These were civilians who had watched their world burn and decided to return the favor. Doctor, are you sure about this path? Stone asked quietly. Foster finally looked up at him. Her eyes were cold and tired. They murdered 800,000. people to make a point, Colonel. Now we're going to make one back. The only question is whether you want to help us or get out of our way." Stone said nothing. He had his answer. Captain Steve Rogers led his reconnaissance team deeper into alien-controlled territory. Their mission had expanded beyond intelligence gathering. Now they were hunting. The information they transmitted back to Earth Command had changed the nature of the war completely. "Confirmed alien civilian transport," whispered Lucy Chun from her sniper position. She was watching a convoy of alien vehicles moving through what used to be Phoenix. "Looks like families. Younglings." Rogers studied the targets through his scope. The aliens in the vehicles were smaller than the soldiers, with lighter crystalline features. Obviously non-combatants. Before Denver, this would have been an easy decision. Civilians were off limits. "Take them out," Rogers ordered. Chun's finger hesitated on the trigger for only a moment. Then alien vehicles began exploding one by one. When the attack was over, nothing moved in the convoy. Rogers activated his radio. "Command, this is Recon Team Alpha. Enemy civilian transport eliminated. Broadcasting surrender demand on all alien frequencies." The message was simple and brutal. Any alien found on Earth would be killed. Any alien world that supported the invasion would be attacked. The human species was no longer interested in military victory. They wanted extinction of their enemies. Major. Katie Johnson's assault teams had grown into small armies. Armed with improved energy weapons and explosive devices that Foster's people had designed, they struck alien positions with terrifying efficiency. But their tactics had changed as much as their equipment. "Sir, we've taken the supply depot," Johnson reported after a raid in Texas. "No alien survivors. We've also rigged the entire facility with nuclear charges." General Sullivan's voice came through the radio with a slight delay. "Nuclear charges? Those weren't in your mission orders." "No, sir. But when the aliens send a relief force to investigate, they'll get a surprise. We're turning every victory into a trap." This was the new human strategy. Every building they abandoned was booby-trapped. Every piece of equipment they left behind was rigged to explode. Every alien position they captured became a killing ground for the next alien unit to approach Dot in space. Admiral Morrison had turned the surviving human fleet into something the aliens had never encountered. His ships operated independently, striking supply lines and communication satellites before disappearing into the asteroid belt or behind planetary bodies. "Sir, we've captured another alien transport," reported Lieutenant Commander Nancy Price from the bridge of the USS Liberty. "It's carrying civilians and wounded soldiers." Morrison studied the alien ship on his view screen. Before Denver, he would have taken prisoners and tried to arrange an exchange. Now he had different orders. "Destroy it," he said simply. The alien ship vanished in a ball of fire. Morrison felt nothing as he watched it die. The aliens had taught humans a new kind of warfare. Now they were learning the lessons themselves. On the surface, human resistance had evolved into something that terrified even experienced alien veterans. Captain Danny Walsh led Marines who fought like demons, using captured alien equipment in ways that defied all logic and safety protocols. "Sir, intelligence reports that alien morale is breaking in several sectors," reported Sergeant Kelly Brooks. She had become Walsh's demolitions coordinator, training teams of volunteers to build increasingly destructive explosive devices. "Good," Walsh replied, "but it's not enough. We need them to fear coming to Earth. We need other species in the galaxy to know what happens when you attack humans." Brooks nodded and returned to her work. She was developing a new type of bomb that used alien fusion technology. It was incredibly dangerous to build and deploy, but it could destroy an entire city block. The fact that it might kill the person using it was considered an acceptable risk. President Rodriguez had moved her government to a mobile command center that changed location daily. The aliens had tried to target her specifically, but human intelligence networks had become impossible to penetrate. Every civilian was now a potential spy or saboteur. "Ma'am, we're getting reports from around the world," General Sullivan reported during their daily briefing. Human forces had begun offensive operations on all continents. We're not just defending anymore, we're hunting them. Rodriguez nodded. "What about civilian casualties?" "Our casualties are heavy," Sullivan admitted. "But alien casualties are heavier. And ma'am, we're starting to receive surrender requests from individual alien units. Our response? We're killing them anyway. After Denver, we don't take prisoners." Rodriguez considered this. A year ago, such a statement would have horrified her. Now it seemed like basic military sense. Continue current operations. And General, make sure every alien command unit knows what we're doing to their people. The psychological warfare was working. Alien units had begun requesting transfers away from Earth. Some had attempted to retreat to orbit without orders. A few had tried to surrender to human forces, only to discover that surrender was no longer an option. Commander Vex Tar read casualty reports with growing disbelief. In 18 months of fighting, he had lost 40% of his ground forces and 20% of his fleet. No previous conquest had cost anywhere near this much. "Sir, we're receiving reports of human attacks on our supply worlds," his aide reported nervously. "They're using captured ships to raid our mining colonies." "Impossible," Vextar replied. "They don't have interstellar navigation technology." "Apparently they do now, sir. 3 mining stations have gone silent in the past month. When relief ships arrived, they found nothing. No survivors. No infrastructure. Just debris." Vextar studied the tactical display showing Earth and the surrounding star systems. Red markers indicated alien positions. Blue markers showed human activity. There were far more blue markers than there should have been. "How are they operating?" "So many ships?" he asked. "They're using our own vessels, sir. Every ship we lose, they somehow manage to capture and operate. Their crews are learning our technology faster than our analysts thought possible." Dr. Amy Foster's latest creation was ready for deployment. She called it the pacification protocol, though there was nothing peaceful about it. The biological weapon was specifically designed to target Zephyrian physiology, attacking their nervous systems and causing agonizing death within minutes. "We can deploy it through their air recycling systems," she explained to Colonel Stone. "One canister will clear an entire ship or base. Death rate is 100%. Stone looked at the innocent-looking chemical containers. "And if they retaliate with similar weapons?" Foster shrugged. "Then we all die. But at least we take them with us." It was a level of nihilistic determination that even Stone found disturbing, but he approved the weapon for production. Earth was no longer fighting to win. They were fighting to ensure that attacking humanity came with an unacceptable price. The first use of the pacification protocol was against an alien base in Australia. Human infiltrators introduced the weapon into the base's life support system during a night raid. By morning, 3,000 aliens were dead. No human casualties. "Weapon effectiveness confirmed," Captain Walsh reported to command. "Target neutralized. We're distributing the formula to resistance cells worldwide." Within weeks, similar attacks were occurring on every continent. Alien bases that had seemed impregnable were suddenly becoming death traps. Entire garrisons would simply stop responding to communications overnight. The psychological effect was devastating. Alien soldiers began refusing orders to enter enclosed spaces. Some units requested constant air quality monitoring. Others demanded human prisoners for testing before they would eat or drink anything. Admiral Morrison's space forces had grown. 18 months after the invasion began, The Zephyrian Empire faced a crisis that threatened its very existence. What had started as a simple conquest of a primitive world had become a nightmare that consumed ships, soldiers, and entire star systems. Emperor Zexthran sat in his crystal palace on the Zephyrian homeworld, reading reports that grew more disturbing each day. Human forces now operated in 7-star systems using captured alien technology. Mining colonies fell silent with terrifying regularity. Supply convoys required massive escorts that often arrived at their destinations to find nothing but wreckage. "Your Imperial Majesty," his chief advisor spoke carefully, "the Council is requesting your presence. The Earth situation requires immediate attention." The Emperor rose from his throne, his crystalline features reflecting the light from massive windows that showed the Zephyrian capital city below. In a million years of galactic expansion, his species had never encountered anything like humanity. Captain Danny Walsh stood on the bridge of a captured Zephyrian dreadnought, now rechristened the USS Vengeance. His Marines had learned to operate alien technology with deadly efficiency, turning sophisticated warships into instruments of pure destruction. "Sir, we're approaching the Proxima Centauri system," reported Lieutenant Commander Nancy Price, who had transferred from Admiral Morrison's fleet to serve as Walsh's tactical officer. "Intelligence confirms a major alien naval base with civilian population centers." Walsh studied the tactical display. Thousands of alien ships orbited a world that housed millions of Zephyrian civilians. Before the war, such a target would have been unthinkable for human forces. Now it was just another objective. "Begin the attack," Walsh ordered. "Remember the protocol. No survivors." The human fleet consisted of 30 captured alien vessels, each one modified for maximum destructive capability. Dr. Amy Foster's weapons improvements had turned sophisticated exploration ships into engines of annihilation. When they opened fire on the alien naval base, the results were devastating. Ships exploded in chains of destruction, as human modifications caused catastrophic overloads in alien systems. The carefully planned Zephyrian defense grid collapsed within hours as human tactics proved impossible to counter. But the real terror began when human forces reached the planet's surface. "Sir, civilian population centers are requesting surrender terms," reported Communications Officer Tony Kim. "No terms," Walsh replied coldly. "Commence planetary bombardment." The world died slowly. Human forces had learned to use alien orbital weapons with brutal efficiency, turning cities into craters and population centers into graveyards. When the attack ended, nothing moved on the planet's surface. On Earth, President Rodriguez coordinated the final phase of humanity's war against their invaders. The planet's surface was scarred and burned, but human resistance had evolved into something that terrified even their own leaders. "Ma'am, we're receiving reports from all fronts," General Sullivan reported during their daily briefing. "Human forces have eliminated alien presence in North America, Europe, and Australia. Remaining enemy units are requesting evacuation." "Evacuation requests denied," Rodriguez replied without hesitation. "Any alien found on Earth dies here." This was the new human doctrine. Earth had become a death trap for any alien that remained on the surface. Those who tried to retreat to orbit found human space forces waiting for them. Those who tried to hide in cities discovered that every human civilian was now a potential killer. Dr. Foster's laboratories had produced weapons that violated every law of civilized warfare. Biological agents that targeted alien DNA, nanoscale machines that consumed alien technology on contact, chemical weapons that turned alien armor into acid. Most terrifying of all, psychological warfare techniques that drove alien survivors to madness. "Doctor, the Empire is requesting negotiations," Colonel Stone informed her during one of his routine visits to the weapons development facility. Foster looked up from her latest creation, a device that could sterilize an entire star. System of alien life. Are they offering reparations for the 17 species they exterminated? They're offering to withdraw from Earth and pay tribute, Stone replied. Not enough, Foster said, returning to her work. We want them gone from the galaxy. Completely. Admiral. Morrison had become humanity's most effective deep space commander, leading fleets of captured alien ships in raids that struck at the heart of Zephyrian civilization. His forces operated without supply lines, living off captured alien resources and using enemy technology against its creators. Sir, we've identified the location of the Zephyrian homeworld, reported Captain Steve Rogers, who now commanded one of Morrison's battle groups. Long-range reconnaissance confirms it's heavily defended, but not impregnable. Morrison studied the intelligence data with cold satisfaction. How many ships would we need for a successful assault? Everything we have, Rogers replied. It would be a one-way mission for most of our forces, but we could reach the planet. Then we do it, Morrison decided. It's time to show the Empire what happens when you attack Earth. The final battle began with human forces emerging from hyperspace at the edge of the Zephyrian home system. 50 captured alien dreadnoughts, each one modified beyond recognition, advanced toward the most heavily defended world in the galaxy. Emperor Zexthron watched the approaching human fleet from his palace with a mixture of fascination and horror. In 18 months, this primitive species had gone from throwing metal projectiles to commanding fleets of advanced starships. They had learned alien technology and improved upon it in ways that defied understanding. Your Majesty, the Defense Fleet is requesting permission to engage, his military coordinator reported. Granted, the Emperor replied, but also prepare my personal ship. If the humans reach the surface, I want to speak with their commander. Personally. The space battle around the Zephyrian homeworld lasted 6 hours. Human forces fought with the same desperate ferocity they had shown throughout the war, using tactics that prioritized maximum damage over survival. Alien ships exploded as human crews deliberately overloaded their power cores. Space stations were rammed by human vessels that sacrificed themselves to break through defensive lines. When it ended, 30 human ships had been destroyed. But the Zephyrian defense fleet was gone, and human forces were approaching the planet's surface. Captain Walsh led the landing force personally. His Marines had become something that would have been unrecognizable to their peacetime predecessors. They were harder, colder, and completely dedicated to the destruction of their enemies. Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the planetary surface, reported Nancy Price. It's the alien Emperor. He wants to speak with our commanding officer. Walsh considered this. In the past 18 months, no alien leader had requested direct communication with human forces. Usually they just died. Put him through. Walsh decided. Emperor Zexthron appeared on the main screen of the human command ship. He was older than most Zephyrians, with crystal features that showed the wear of centuries. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of a species facing extinction. Human Commander, I am Emperor Zexthron of the Zephyrian Empire. I wish to discuss terms for ending this conflict. Walsh leaned back in his command chair, studying the alien leader with cold eyes. The terms are simple, alien. Complete withdrawal from all 17 star systems your people conquered. Reparations to be paid to any surviving species you enslaved. Total disarmament of your military forces. And if we agree to these terms, the Emperor asked, then you get to keep existing, Walsh replied. If you refuse, we exterminate your species completely, just like you did to 17 others. The Emperor's crystalline features shifted, showing what might have been fear or resignation. You would commit genocide? You already did, Walsh pointed out. We're just returning the favor. There was a long silence as the Emperor considered his options. Around him, his advisors whispered urgently in their musical language. Finally, he looked back at the human commander. "We accept your terms," he said quietly. Doc Walsh nodded. "Good. You have 72 hours to begin withdrawal from all occupied systems. Any Zephyrian ship found in human space after that deadline will be destroyed without warning." The transmission ended. Around the galaxy, Zephyrian forces began the largest military withdrawal in their species' history. Occupation fleets abandoned conquered worlds. Military bases were evacuated. An empire that had expanded for 1,000 years was contracting in a matter of days. On Earth, President Rodriguez addressed her surviving people for the last time as a wartime leader. The planet was scarred and changed, but humanity had survived. "Fellow citizens," she said, looking directly into the camera. "Today, the alien invaders have agreed to our terms for ending this war. They will leave our space and pay for their crimes. But we must remember the cost of our victory." She paused, thinking of the cities that had burned, the millions who had died, and the species humanity had become in the crucible of total war. "We are not the same people we were 18 months ago. We have seen what we are capable of when threatened with extinction. We have become something that other species will fear and respect. This is both our greatest strength and our greatest responsibility." General Sullivan oversaw the construction of Earth's new interstellar fleet.